Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I'm here to talk about books. A little bit of a life update before we get started. My work schedule is looking a lot different now because I actually quit my work from home job and I went back to my old job, which is a 9-to-5. If you're noticing that my voice sounds a little bit weird, I think my immune system is kind of in a little bit of a shock at the moment because I've been working from home for 2 years. So I haven't really spent a lot of time with people consistently, and this job that I have now is public facing. I feel fine. I just have like a little bit of a cough and stuff. It's nothing. It's gonna be fine. So right now it is about 6 p.m. on a Friday. It is the end of my very first week back at my old job and I am so happy. I had a really good week this week. Starting today and over the weekend and everything, depending on how long it takes me to finish this book, I would do a dedicated reading vlog to one of the most anticipated books that's been on my TBR. This is not a new book by any means, but is a book that I found very intimidating because it was highly anticipated. And it also is by one of my all-time favorite authors. So that would be The One by John Mars. This vlog I plan to have full of spoilers. I'm going to talk about everything that I think and feel about this book. So if you're not looking for a spoiler video, this will not be the video for you. But if you are looking for somebody to talk to you about The One by John Mars, it's about time that I get this one read and off of my TBR and that I conquer my fear that I won't like it for some reason. So if you're not aware what this book is about, it is set in a near distant future. There's a DNA test that will tell you who your DNA match is, like who the person is that you are meant to be with. So it's like scientific. It's kind of giving like Black Mirror, so I've heard. And I'm very, very excited to read this, especially because there is a show on this book now. It is a thriller. It is not a romance. I'm assuming that there's probably going to be some like romance involved because I know that you follow like several different couples. I have a really hard time following from like multiple point of views. So I'm hoping that in John Mars's classic writing style that he will deliver us twists, that he will make these characters stand out from each other. I am going to be taking notes, like the characters, who they're matched with, what their situations are, and I hope that helps me to really dive deep into this book and give it a fair shot. So I'm gonna start reading and I will update you guys relatively soon. So first update, I just got to chapter 13, which is page 56. I think we've already met all of our matches, or like figured out who they are. So a couple of things that I was not expecting already. We have our first match, which is Mandy, who was matched with Richard. Mandy's divorced and her husband had left her for his DNA match. And so after some time of grieving, she decided that it was her time to find her DNA match. She wasn't reaching out to him because she thought that he should reach out to her as like the man. And so she just kind of like was stalking him on social media and collecting as much information that she could about him. She has sisters in her family who have been matched and have children with their matches. And so her family's pressuring her because they know that she did the DNA test, like, let us meet him, bring him around. What's going on? We want to know things about him. And she's like, oh. But then one day she goes to his Facebook page and she sees that his sister posted on there that they are holding a memorial service for him. So this man's dead that she was matched with, which is so sad. Could you imagine trying to find your soulmate and your husband left you for his DNA match? So then you finally get yours to find out that this man is dead. Like, yours is dead. And then our second match is Christopher, who is matched with Amy. And Christopher is a serial killer. So that's very John Mars. He's also a graphic designer for a magazine. So, of course, because every serial killer's got to have their day job, you know. And then he was matched with Amy, who we just found out at the end of this chapter is a police officer. So, quite the match there. And then we have Jade, who is a 21-year-old hotel receptionist. She is a broke college graduate and she lives in the United States. She's been matched with Kevin, who lives on a farm in Australia. And this one, I have some theories because she talks with Kevin. She texts him all the time. They've gotten to know each other, but he refuses to like Skype with her. And it's just kind of giving like catfish to me. So I'm trying to think of how this situation could be catfish if like she was matched with him, but he is a catfish. And so he's sending her like pictures of whoever he's posing as, but that he's not who he says he is. I don't know. That's my theory with that one. I definitely know he's hiding something. And then there's Nick, who is engaged to Sally, and Sally is asking him at this point in the book to do the DNA test because she wants like the confirmation before they say I do that they are the one for each other. And he's like, well, what if we're not? What if we have different DNA matches? Then what? And she was like, then we'll just have to put more work into our relationship because all you need is love. Nick does not seem to be a fan of that. And he thinks like, I already know you're the person that I want to be with. I don't see the point in us doing this test. But he ends up saying yes and being like, if that's what's going to make you happy, I'll do it. Haven't gotten to a part yet where we've gotten their results. The last couple, which is Ellie, she seems like some kind of famous app designer. She also seems like kind of bougie a little bit, like she spends a lot of money. She gets matched up with Timothy, who is a systems analyst, and we don't know anything about Timothy yet. She has not met up with him yet, but she did do like a background check on him and he just seems like a normal dude. So I think she is considering meeting up with him. The ones that I'm most interested in would obviously be the serial killer and the police officer. Like, that one's crazy. And then I want to know what's going on with Jade and Kevin because I feel like he has some kind of weird secret or thing that he's hiding. And then of course, Nick, we don't know who he's matched with yet, but I'm almost willing to bet that he's going to be matched with somebody who is not his fiance and that it's going to cause a problem in their relationship. Like, duh, that I can see that one coming a million miles away. I might read a little bit more before I go to bed tonight. And of course, I will let you guys know in the morning if there's been any significant changes to the story. So far, it is really interesting. I definitely would not have been able to keep up with this book if I wasn't writing down like characters and taking notes because there are a lot, as expected, but yeah. Good morning. My hair is absolutely insane right now. Can't be bothered to fix it. I am definitely getting sick. I laid in bed and read more this morning. I'm at page 135, which is chapter 31. But I figured it was time now to get up, grab a crispy cold Red Bull so that I don't have any dairy to make this situation worse, and read in another room. It's a weekend where I don't have any plans. I don't have anything going on. The only thing that I have scheduled is a nail appointment tomorrow, and otherwise my whole plan this weekend was just to read this book. So updates on what I've read so far and what my thoughts are. My notes are definitely noting right now. So we have Mandy and Richard. So she decided to show up at his memorial service pretending to be one of his friends. Because she was kind of embarrassed. Like, yeah, I got matched with him through DNA. This world is very divided in the people who believe in this experiment and the people who believe that, like, the DNA test is legitimate. And then there's also the other half of the world that's like, this is bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. How can that work? His family starts getting a little bit skeptical of her because they're like, we have never met you before. We've never seen you before. And she's like, oh, I went backpacking with him in Australia. And they're like, yeah, we were there and you weren't. So who the fuck are you? So that was the end of that chapter, which is a definite cliffhanger. But then when we pick back up on her chapter again, she admits to them who she is, and she says, I was matched DNA with him, and I was embarrassed, and I didn't want to tell you guys that because I didn't know how you would feel about it, but I really wanted to come to this and be a part of this because I, for some reason, am having all of these feelings of mourning this person that I've never met because apparently he's my soulmate. Family was like, oh, we've heard about you, we know who you are. And then they're very welcoming to her, and they start asking her to, like, come over to their house and, like, see pictures of him and stuff like that. So, yeah, now her and his family are, like, getting along and doing their thing. And then next up was Christopher and Amy. Christopher, as a true serial killer would be, is very narcissistic. He is emotionally unavailable. He said he didn't even know the real reason why he did this test because he's never been interested in, like, love and finding connections with people. He's only ever cared about, like, the sexual aspect of it, but he didn't want the emotional part of it. He didn't have any feelings for anybody. But those two things in a normal relationship tend to go hand in hand. So for the most part, he's pretended, and that's what he knows his love life to be. But with Amy, he meets up with her, finds out that she's a police officer, and he's like, oh shit. But then they start talking about some of the cases that she's worked on, and he begins to uncover that she's actually working on his case, like his crimes as a serial killer. So him being, like, the narcissist that he is, he's like, I'm gonna use this to my advantage. Like, I want to see what information the police have on me. And then he also likes to hear her talk about his crimes, which this is the thing. With Amy, I feel like she's a kind of shitty police officer because there are all these red flags of him just knowing information about these crimes and him being like, I just like to know stuff like this. I'm interested in true crime. She's like, how did you know that he was using cheese wire? We only said that it was a wire. We didn't say it was cheese wire. And he's like, oh, well, I mean, I assumed that if you were to use a wire to, you know, kill somebody, that you would use something that has handles on it so it doesn't hurt your hands. And she's like, okay, yeah, that checks out. No. No, I don't know if she's just, like, in denial because she's like, this is my match. There's no way that he could be, like, a bad person, and people just like true crime and stuff, and he's probably just one of those people. So I don't know if she's just completely avoiding all of these red flags and has, like, rose-colored glasses on. To Christopher's benefit, upon their first meetup, they're kind of having small talk, trying to get to know each other, which is something that Christopher has a hard time doing to begin with because he just doesn't care. But then Amy was like, look, we've been matched, and I don't know if it's because we're drinking, I don't know if it's because of hormones, but all I want to do is, like, have sex with you. And he was just like, okay, that works out for me, so let's pay for our tab and get out of here. And then she just goes home with him. I do not see that situation working out very well at all, because if she's not trying to get to know this man and, you know, what drives him, what his interests are besides being a graphic designer for a magazine, then how are you expected to actually fall in love with him? She just wants to have sex with him. And I think that works out for him because that's all he wants. But in this situation, it's not looking too good. On to the next couple, Jade and Kevin. Some of the conversations that she was having with her friends, they were like, are you guys sexting? Are you guys sending each other dirty pictures? What's going on? Like, give us the dirty details. And she's like, we don't. I tried to send him pictures at one point, but he didn't seem to reciprocate it very well. So we don't have that type of relationship. Her friends convince her, what is stopping you from just traveling to Australia and meeting him in person? And she's like, you know what? You got a point there. I don't know what is stopping me from doing this. I think it's just because I'm scared. And so she uses what little money she does have and decides to surprise Kevin by flying to Australia. Calls him and is like, hey, I'm outside. Come outside. And he's like, you should not be here. You need to leave. And that's how one of their chapters ended, which I was like, shit. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading. But when we pick back up on their chapters again, it turns out that Kevin actually has lymphoma. He has cancer, so he's dying, and that is what he's hiding from her. Was curious about this experiment, so he applied for it. After being diagnosed, he is sending her pictures, but they're like older pictures of him when he wasn't so sickly. When she first sees him, he's like got his little pole with his IV on it and everything like that, and he is super skinny, pale, not looking too hot, and he's like, I am dying, and that's why I didn't want to Skype you. That's why I didn't want to FaceTime you. I did not know how to break this news to you. Curiosity got the best of me, so I did this DNA experiment, but how do I tell you that I'm dying? We'll see what happens from there. I don't really know yet, because that's kind of where I left off with their chapters. And then this one is getting really interesting. So Nick is the one that is engaged to Sally, and him and Sally decide that they want to do the DNA experiment. It was more Sally pushing him to do it. Nick didn't really want to. So we got their results back, and Sally's results came back inconclusive, which means most likely that the person who she is supposed to be matched with has not done the DNA test, like has not subscribed to this experiment yet. But Nick does. Obviously, it's not Sally. The real kicker in this situation is that Nick has been matched with a man named Alex, and he's like, I am not gay. I do not like men. I don't know why I would have been matched with a dude. Sally thinks this is funny. She's like, oh, I've always wanted to have a gay BFF, and now I'm going to be married to mine. Like, this is fantastic. I love this. And Nick is like, no, it's inaccurate. It's wrong. Sally's like, wouldn't you be curious to at least meet him and see what this is all about? And he's like, no. He thinks that it's a load of crap. He's like, this experiment is a waste of money and time. The anger part of it was kind of like, to me, oh, there's a possibility. Like, the fact that you are getting so upset over this test saying that you're gay, and like Sally, you know, she's joking about it and she's having a good time with it and she thinks it's funny. She wants you to meet this person, and you're like, no, absolutely not. Are you scared, babe? Are you scared? That was a turn that I wasn't expecting at all. His match, Alex, is a physiotherapist. He makes an appointment with him under a false name because Sally makes him do it. So Nick is asking him questions, and he's asking him if he's from Australia, which Alex says that he's from New Zealand. He's been here for about 20 months, but his visa's running out, so he's probably going to go back home. And then Nick is like, are you going back for good? Alex says, that's the idea. We're just in the process of sorting out my girlfriend's permit to work in New Zealand. She's a Brit. And then Nick's internal monologue, he has a girlfriend. He's not gay, thought Nick, reassured that they were both in the same boat, the same straight, positively heterosexual boat. So during this appointment, Sally is sitting out in the car, just anxiously waiting for Nick to be done. And when he comes out, she says, well, how was it? He said, yeah, fine, but he's not my type. He smiled and forced himself to laugh. So I'm not about to lose my fiance to a man? By the tone of her voice, it sounded like she was trying to make a joke, but he could tell her question was genuine. Did you honestly think that might be the case? No. Well, maybe. A little? Yes. Of course not, he said reassuringly, comforting her with a peck on the forehead. Nick's eyes glanced across the road and up 3 stories to the clinic where he knew he left his heart. Later, he gets a call from Alex and he said, "Was that you in my office earlier?" And Nick said, "Yeah, how did you know?" And he's like, "Because I felt something and I looked you up. I paid the $10 to get your information. I matched you with the person who I saw in my office, and I assumed you used a fake name." So they're both like, "This is crazy, right? Like, this doesn't make any sense." And Alex is like, "No, I have a girlfriend. I don't know why I would have been matched with you." Which, if you have a girlfriend, why are you doing the test? I think that Nick is actually going to end up falling in love with Alex and possibly cheating on Sally, maybe leaving her for him. And then if that's not the case, then my second theory would be Sally's match ends up taking the test and then she will leave Nick for her match. And then I'll think like Nick and Alex then have to kind of figure out what they're doing, because there's obviously a connection here. He's obviously curious about it, but he doesn't want to admit that to anybody. I don't want him to cheat. I would rather him, break things off with Sally, but it is a thriller, so of course that is a possibility. Our fifth couple, Ellie and Timothy, he invites her out to his local pub because he's a very laid back, like bro kind of guy, while Ellie, as I said, is very bougie. She has like nice clothes. They got along really well. They had cute banter. It seems like they're kind of friends, Found herself in a lot of situations dating people who knew who she was and what benefit they could get from her. And she didn't want that anymore. She wanted a genuine connection with someone. So she did this test, matched with a person who is just your average Joe Schmo. And she's like, even though I don't really have fireworks and feelings for him right off the bat, I still really want to explore this opportunity because this is the whole reason that I did this experiment. Their second meeting, he invites her to a fancy restaurant. She shows up and he's obviously just went out and bought himself a new tux that he probably couldn't afford. Hair's all slicked back. And he's like, "I have to admit something to you." And then Ellie's like, "Shit, he looked me up. He knows who I am now. This ruined everything." But he's like, "I went home and was telling my friend about our meeting and he gave me shit because he said that I should have taken you out somewhere nice. I should have bought you flowers. Asking you to go to my local pub was not the move." And Ellie was like, "I actually found that very endearing. I found it cute. I like that you're being yourself. I hope that this isn't going to end up in like a friend zone situation, because it seems like they just haven't gotten to that point yet where they are connecting on a romantic level. But I do think that those two are cute. Probably the least interesting out of all of the other couples that we have as of right now, but I still think they're really cute. Yeah, that is the update on everybody that we have here. I am so excited to get back into reading this book because I obviously have a lot of thoughts, a lot of theories, and I can't wait to see what happens with these people. How's it go?
Flavory.
Baked in a buttery, flavory crust. So my husband and I are cooking dinner right now. We're making soup because I am trying to nurse whatever disease I have a brewing. Oh shit, that scared me. I opened the... It always scares me every time. But I figured that while we are getting dinner prepared, I will give you guys an update. So Mandy ends up going home with Richard's family, looking at old memories, old photos and everything. And then she kind of falls in love with him through the stories that the family was telling her. So she still feels like she has a connection to him and like he was the person that she was meant to be with. But instead of her talking to him, she's talking to everybody that knew him. It got brought up by Richard's mother that when he was younger, he had testicular cancer and he ended up freezing his sperm. So Richard's mom and Mandy come to the agreement that she will become impregnated by Richard's sperm and carry on his legacy by carrying his child. So at this point in the book now, she is pregnant with his kid. She has not seen her family or talked to them because as far as they were concerned, she was seeing Richard because she didn't want to admit to them that she didn't reach out to meet him. And then even worse, he's dead. And like, here I am falling in love with him, even though he's not even here or alive. And so she's worried that her family's gonna like judge her and stuff. So she just tries to keep a distance from them. Her family comes knocking on her door because they're like, we have not heard from you. We don't know what is going on. Holy shit, you're pregnant. We need an update. Like, how's Richard doing? What's going on with Richard? And then she has to tell them the truth. And she's like, I know you guys are gonna think this sounds crazy, but I'm in love with a dead man. I am carrying his child. And they're like, that is impossible. You are psychotic. You are not allowed to see him anymore. You're not allowed to speak with his family anymore. And she says, fuck off. This is my life. This is the life that I want to live. So now she's officially moved in with Richard's family. He took over his old bedroom and she found his old cell phone. So she started going through his old cell phone and found some messages that he had with this girl that he was dating for a while. And Mandy, at the chapter that I actually just ended on, was starting to type out a message to her because she wanted to talk to this ex-girlfriend and see what it was like to be with Richard, and not just like from a family's perspective, but from a significant other's perspective. So we'll see where that goes. The next couple is Christopher and Amy. I still feel like Amy has no personality and that she's just here to help like with the story and the plot. So she's definitely one of my least favorite characters to be the match for the serial killer and to have a job that makes this whole thing more interesting. Because who the fuck are you? Like, you don't realize that you're dating a serial killer? The serial killer that you know all the details about his crimes? Like, you can't pick up on that? I don't buy it. He is starting to actually gain feelings for Amy. He does not know what to do with that because he has always been about himself and his own needs, and he has never cared for another soul in his entire life. He's also spending a lot of time with Amy, which takes away from the time that he spends preparing to kill these girls. So he has to cram all of the work that he does into the nights that he's alone, where he's not with Amy. And this character is kind of like a perfectionist. There's been some notes here and there about how his monitors need to be centered perfectly and that he carries out everything that he does with such detail in a specific way that he likes it. So I have a feeling that because he is cramming all of his work and trying to spend time with Amy while also being a serial killer, that he's probably going to lose his shit because it's not going to be perfect because he's rushing himself, and maybe he's gonna try to blame that on Amy and maybe kill her. That's what my assumption is. And then we did get a little bit of a part where he was kind of fantasizing about killing Amy. So that's kind of why I feel like it's heading in that direction. Our third couple, Jade and Kevin. She goes to Australia, surprises him, finds out that he has cancer and that he's dying. Literally just wasted all of the money that she had on this plane ticket to Australia. So she doesn't really have a choice about flying back to the United States at this time. She kind of got herself stuck. So even though things aren't really what she expected between her and Kevin, she is going to just hang out, feel it out, see how it goes. And as of right now, she's not having feelings for him. Kevin is falling in love with her, but the feelings that she had for him while they were long distance are not translating to what they have in person. She was researching the other couples who have been matched and if they had feelings right away, if there was that connection. And some people said that depending on the circumstance, it was delayed. So she's like, okay, just gonna wait it out for a little bit and see what happens. She ends up falling in love with his brother, who is like the caretaker. At the end of the last chapter I read from them, Kevin is telling her, I know this is not what you expected. I know this was a complete 180, but I just want to let you know that this has been the best time of my life. Even though I am dying, I still want to give you this ring that I picked out for you. So he proposes to her and she says yes, even though she is falling in love with his brother. So that's fucked up. I kind of liked Jade, but I don't know anymore. If she said no to him, or kind of said like, let me think about this a little bit, maybe I would have liked her more. But the fact that she says yes, like, girl, don't play that man. He is about to die. Do not do that to him. The next couple would be Nick and Alex. So they decide to meet up, and he goes behind Sally's back because he doesn't want her to know that he's actually talking to this man. He's telling her that he has late night appointments with clients. Alex plays sports. Nick starts showing up to these sporting events and watching his man play his sports, and he is very aroused. He's getting feelings for him. So there's that whole thing. And then he comes to find out that Alex also is not telling his girlfriend that he's seeing Nick and that they're hanging out. Nick is now really struggling mentally with this whole thing, so he's heavily drinking and he picked up smoking again. And Sally's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, why are you drunk all the time? And he's like, well, I just am. And she said, we're supposed to be getting married and now you're an alcoholic. What is happening? And then the last couple, which is Ellie and Timothy, things started to get a little bit more interesting with these two. So we've known up until this point that Ellie is an app designer and that she's kind of famous. One day they're out on a little casual date with each other, and a woman approaches Ellie and starts cussing her out, throwing things at her. She throws red paint on her and Timothy and says, you have blood on your hands, blah, blah, blah. Tim is like, what? Who are you? And what the hell did you do that pissed this lady off? She's like, I've never seen her before in my life. I don't know who that is. And so Tim's like, we need to call the police. And she's like, no, let's not call the police. Let's just leave. He orders her a cab, helps her get home. And then when they approach her home, she puts in her little key card. On the other side of the door is one of her security people, and he's about to attack Tim. And she was like, no, don't attack him. He's fine. Let's just end the night and be done. She goes inside and leaves Tim outside in the cold by himself. And then the next chapter with him, she is showing up at his apartment with her security to confess to him who she is and what she's done. Ellie is actually the one who created this experiment, the one who discovered the DNA match system. So this was all her idea. She is also a very hated woman. The whole DNA matching thing has broken up several marriages. It's caused a lot of turmoil in people's lives because it completely upends what happens organically in a relationship when two people meet and fall in love. So it's a very life-changing discovery that, while it has done wonders for some people, it has also completely ruined other people's lives. On this first page, I don't know if you guys noticed when I showed it to you, but there's like a little disclaimer that says that they are not responsible for anything that happens. And she said that's pretty much how they get out of all of these crazy lawsuits, because people are filing them, but most of them go nowhere. I don't know what's really gonna happen between those two. At this point, it seems like that one might be the only like happy story-ish, like somebody who found love. So we'll see what kind of Black Mirror shit is ahead of us. So far, this book has been really interesting. It's super good. I can't wait to watch this TV show now, and I'm actually gonna force my husband to watch it with me.
Yes, ma'am.
You guys, I finished this book, and my God, did John Morris deliver on this one, because this was insane. Like, what the fuck? I don't think I predicted any of these twists. Mandy and Richard. So she had found his old phone and found a previous girl that he was dating, and she went to go send her a message at the end of that chapter. The next chapter that we pick up on, they're meeting in person. She had scheduled like a meetup with this ex-girlfriend because she wanted to talk to her. And if I was that ex-girlfriend, I would have been like, no, absolutely not. This is weird. But they did. Mandy's talking to her, and she's kind of telling her like, I just want to know what he was like from your perspective. I'm getting a lot of family and friends, and I just want to know who he was from the perspective of somebody who was romantically involved with him, thinking that like it wasn't going to be weird because he's dead. And this girl was telling her, you know, yeah, he was kind of a player. He never wanted to settle down. The story that she was telling about Richard was not matching up with the story that Mandy knew of him from everyone else. She was like, I'm actually really surprised that he did the whole match your DNA thing, because he definitely was not the type of person that wanted to settle down. And she was like, well, maybe he had a change of heart because things didn't work out with you. Too bad we can't ask him since he's dead. And she was like, he's not dead. He's very much alive. He did get hit by a car, but he's in a nursing home. And that was the end of that chapter. That cliffhanger, you guys, I was just like, what? Excuse me? So she ends up telling her that his family was really weird and that they were begging her to use his sperm that was in the sperm bank to have his child, and she was refusing to do that. And this family just really wanted to find somebody that would be pregnant with his child. I was floored. So of course, the first thing that she does after this meeting with this girl is that she finds this nursing home and goes there to meet her man. He's in like a vegetative state, so she doesn't really get a lot, you know, from meeting him or anything, but she is told by like the staff there that they don't know if he will make it out of this state, if he will survive, or if he will keep declining and eventually pass away. So our girl is just completely distraught, like curveball left and right. She has no idea what to do, but what she does know is to get the fuck out of that house, because that family is insane. I need to go get my shit and I need to leave. Like, I can't be there anymore, and I can figure everything else out later. So she goes to the house. She's trying to sneak in and get her stuff out, and then she runs into his mom. And his mom is like, is everything okay? Is the baby okay? Are you all right? She decides to confront her in this moment because she's like, he's not dead. I met him. He's in a nursing home. Like, why are you lying to me? What is this scheme that you're trying to pull here? What is the reason for all of this? Come to find out, he didn't even submit his own DNA. The mom did it. The mom submitted his DNA because it didn't work out with the other girl she was trying to get to have the baby. So she thought maybe if we find his DNA match, they will be willing to have the baby. So Mandy fell into this entire elaborate scheme set up by this man's mom, and he is none the wiser. He is in a vegetative state. He can't even vouch for himself. So she's fucked. She's stuck in this situation. At this point in time, this was becoming like one of my favorite storylines. So they end up getting into a fight because Mandy is verbally assaulting this woman and saying like, you're psychotic, you are crazy. And the mom's like, you wouldn't understand. You don't get what it's like to be in my position. So they're getting into this altercation. Mandy ends up falling, hitting her head, blacking out. The very next chapter that we get from her, she's waking up in the hospital. She's had a C-section. She's like, where's my baby? And they said, oh, the baby's with your family. She says, who? Because I kind of cut ties with my family. So who would come and take the baby? And they were like, oh, it was your mother-in-law and your sister-in-law. And she was like, call the police. Right now, call the police. So she tells them everything that's going on. There is now a manhunt. They're trying to find this woman because her house Everything was left there except they took all the baby shit and they dipped. So they're trying to find them. Eventually, Mandy remembers when she was looking at like some photos and stuff that Richard had in his room that she was then occupying. There was a picture of him and his sister at this like cabin that she heard stories about. And so she was like, I think I know where my baby is. So she takes the police there to that cabin. It turns out the mom is there. The baby is there. But the mom, she's overdosing. She's killing herself. She said, you would never let me be with this baby. You will never let me have a relationship with my grandson. So I don't want to be here anymore. And then the very final update on these two is that it turns out Richard and Chloe, this woman's 2 children, were actually not biologically hers. They have no idea. There's no relationship whatsoever DNA-wise between this woman and these 2 children that she had. And so now they're looking into missing child cases. This woman did survive her overdose. She is now locked up in jail. So now they're looking into that. That's how their story ended. And that one was balls to the wall, crazy. Probably ended up being one of my favorites out of all of the couples because the twists in this one alone were top tier. Next couple, Christopher and Amy. Christopher starts having second thoughts. Being somebody his entire life who has had like zero emotion, zero care about anybody but himself in the world, he's starting to develop feelings for somebody. So he is at a standstill at the moment. He's not sure what he wants to do. He had set out to kill 30 women and he still wants to complete that goal because he feels like if he doesn't complete that goal, then he will end up resenting Amy for getting in the way of this whole plan that he had. He's going back and forth in a lot of his chapters about how he feels, if he wants to pursue this new like charismatic person that he thinks that he's becoming, or if he wants to continue being a cold-hearted asshole and maybe get rid of Amy too. He's in the middle of killing one of his victims and she gives birth. There's this thing called coffin birth, which is after a pregnant woman passes away, she will birth her child. And it's due to like a lot of the gases and the bodily functions of a body as it's passing away. And he did not realize that she was pregnant. So he becomes really emotional because he's thinking, what if somebody did this to Amy? Like, what if Amy got pregnant with my child and this was Amy and my child that I'm looking at right now? So he's starting to get really emotional about everything. And then at the same time, he's turning around and saying, well, if I hadn't spent so much time with Amy, then maybe I would have been able to research this victim in depth like I've done all my other victims, and I would have found out she was pregnant and I could have moved on to a different one. So his like weird state of mind is like back and forth of blaming Amy for him murdering a pregnant woman as if that was Amy's fault, or like, wow, I'm a piece of shit, this is really sad. And yet he still continues to not make any changes in his life, and he still continues to be in this gray area of like not knowing what to do, but still wanting to carry out his original plans and desires. So next victim that he's killing is a woman in her apartment. He has her tied up to her bed. He's getting all of his stuff prepared. And then out comes Amy. She knocks him out, handcuffs him to the chair so that he can't move. And he wakes up to Amy then, you know, standing there with like his murder gear on. She starts asking him questions. She wants to get some closure on the whole thing. And she's like, were you born this way? Have you always been this type of person? So it turns out that she figured out who he was because one of the little rituals that he did with his killings was that he would kill 2 women within 48 hours. And then he would take a Polaroid photo of both women and then swap, like place the Polaroid on each body so that he could connect the crimes together. One day, Amy is at his house and she finds his little stash of Polaroids that he's taken for himself as like his little prize, because a lot of serial killers will do that. They'll like have some kind of trophy, something they took from the victim or what have you. But she finds his little book of Polaroids and she was like, oh, well, was not expecting that. So she was on to him. And then she followed him when he went to go commit this crime. He ends up saying that he used to find a lot of joy in killing these women. But ever since he's met Amy and he started to fall in love with her and he wants to spend time with her, this has become more of like a inconvenience to him because it's so much labor, it's so much work, and he doesn't want to do it anymore because all he wants to do is be with Amy. And she's like, yeah, nice try, motherfucker. If you really felt that way, you wouldn't still be doing it. Like, you wouldn't still be killing people. And so she doesn't believe him. She doesn't take his word for it. She ends up taking his cheese wire that he would use to strangle these women and she decapitates him. And then the last chapter that we get with these two is actually from Amy's point of view. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really invested in this one because, like I said in a previous update, I felt like she didn't have a lot of personality. There wasn't really much to her, but I did expect that she was going to end up becoming a serial killer after she killed him, like that she was going to continue on with the crimes and everything. He was trying to get her as a police officer to nickname the serial killer because he was like excited by this whole behind the scenes thing. But she was like, we nicknamed him and he ended up being the 30th kill. So he got what he wanted. The next couple is Jade and Kevin. So they ended up having their little wedding ceremony. It was on the farm. All of his close relatives and stuff were there, including his brother. And shortly after they get married, being his little caretaker for the remainder of his days, which was not very much longer, and he ends up passing away. And then she gets upset because after they got married and she was like hanging around taking care of her husband, she did say that he was like her best friend though, since they had that long distance relationship. She didn't take away nothing from that. She still felt like he knew her better than anybody else in her life, and like they did still have a really good bond, even though she didn't feel the love for him. But this entire time, the brother, Mark, that is the one that she is falling in love with, has not said a word to her. So she's like, okay, well, since my husband is dead, I think I'm gonna go back home. He tells her, it would have killed me if I let you go back to the United States and that I didn't at least try to explore these feelings that I had for you. So they ended up hooking up. When they're done, they end up running into Kevin and Mark's mom, and she is absolutely distraught. She was like, how could you do this to my son who just passed away? He was in love with you. You're his wife. And like Mark, as his brother, you're literally sleeping with his wife. Mark said, because Kevin wasn't her real DNA match. It was me. I was her DNA match this entire time. Jade is like, wait, what? He confesses that him and Kevin both did the DNA test together because it was something for them to do, that Kevin's results came back inconclusive while Mark matched with Jade. He felt horrible knowing everything that his brother was going through. He was like, he's depressed. I don't want to tell him that he doesn't have a match, so I'm going to tell him that he matched with Jade and that mine came back inconclusive, because he has nothing left. And so they both carried on believing that this was the case. And the only person who knew the truth was Mark. And apparently, like, Mark didn't show Kevin that, and he just set everything up for him. Like, oh, here's your match. Go ahead and talk to her. Meanwhile, Jade supposedly was just so excited to have received her email saying like that she was matched with somebody that she didn't look at their information whatsoever. She just went ahead and contacted them immediately, which I feel like is kind of a plot hole. Like John could have done a little bit better with that part. So now that the cat is out of the bag, the mom surprisingly was happy that Mark would have done something so selfless so that Kevin could have a little bit of joy in his life for the remainder of his time. It's weird that you like went as far as to let him marry the person that you're destined to be with, but you know, that's just me. Jade and Mark decide that they are now going to be together, even though Jade kind of had her hesitations at first because she was like, you really fucked me over. Like, you had my head all over the place. I didn't know what was going on. I don't know if I can trust you. After some thinking it over, and also the mom being like, You both put Kevin's needs before yours. I'll forever be grateful for that. Don't hate Mark for loving his brother so selflessly. Like, give him a chance. If there's a chance that you guys can be happy together, you'll regret it if you don't take it. That's the end of their story. Okay, Nick and Alex. Nick ends up confessing to Sally, like, I have been seeing him behind your back. Nothing physical has happened, but we have this really strong connection and this bond that I cannot ignore. And so he splits things off with Sally, starts planning to move to New Zealand with Alex. Like a month or so later, he's going, making his way to the airport when he gets a message from Sally, and she says, hey, I need to talk to you. We need to have a conversation. And he's like, I have nothing that I need to say to you. Like, we had our closure. This is the life that I'm going to choose to live. You pushed me in this direction. But Sally is like, well, you're going to have to explain that to your child. And then sends him an ultrasound photo. She's pregnant. Apparently, Nick has always wanted to be a father. It was Sally who was the one that was like on the fence about whether or not she wanted to have kids. So he's like, I can't abandon my child. I have to say and see things through with Sally. Like, I can't be with you. I'm so sorry. Fast forward several months and it is now time for Sally to give birth. She ends up passing away during the labor and the baby survives, thankfully. So he's sitting there with his little baby that he wanted so desperately and that he's so happy to have, except something's a little off. The baby does not look like him whatsoever. In fact, he resembles a close friend of theirs. So I didn't mention these characters earlier in the story because they didn't seem that significant at the time. Deepak and Samara claim that they were together and that they decided to get reassurance and do the DNA test. And it ended up matching them together anyways. And this was the whole reason that Sally wanted to do that too, because she was inspired by them. But it turns out that Deepak and Samara were not matched. They lied about that because they didn't want anybody to know that they were mismatched. And instead, Deepak matched with Sally. They met up. They all became friends coincidentally and started hanging out. But on the side, Deepak and Sally were having an affair. And then Deepak is telling him the whole reason why Sally was pressuring you to do this test was because she thought that if she could get you to match with somebody else, which inevitably you would because your match wasn't her, that you would run off and have your life with that other person, and then she could be the victim that was left behind, and her and Deepak could get together. Her whole idea, apparently, and she just manipulated the fuck out of this situation. She panicked when she found out that she was pregnant because she didn't know whose baby it actually was. So she tried to keep Nick behind just in case. And then Nick was asking him, does your wife know? Does your wife realize that all of this is going on? And he said she did find out very recently and she was not happy about it. She was distraught and she wants me to have absolutely nothing to do with Sally or this baby. Even though Sally is dead, he said, if my wife's opinion didn't matter, I still don't want this child because I'm sitting here looking at him and I have zero feelings for him, which is so sad. I was like, oh, okay. Nick is like, you're absolutely shitty person. I fucking hate you because this poor innocent child just lost his mother and then you're his legitimate father and you want nothing to do with him and I'm going to take him for myself. Deepak signs over the rights and Nick adopts the kid. Fast forward 4 months later, he moves to New Zealand with his new adopted son and purposefully runs into Alex. And he says, I know this might be kind of confusing that I have a child and everything that does not look anything like me. It's a very long story. I'm willing to explain it to you, but I want to give us a shot. And I just need you to know that if you do want to pursue something with me and this child are a package deal. He is my baby. Alex ends up agreeing and they decide that they're going to raise this child together, which that part honestly made me tear up a little bit because I was like, happily ever after for this little boy. His mom died. His dad didn't want him. That is so sad to me. And Nick did not have to step in and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna father this child. The opportunity was right there in front of him and he took it. So I feel that that was like a really heartwarming end to their story, and I actually loved how that one ended. And then the last couple, which is Ellie and Timothy. So it turns out that this entire time Timothy was lying to her about who he truly was. Goes to remind her back in the day, before this company really blew up, when she was first studying her findings, she was stealing DNA from people without their consent and like matching people up. Timothy's mom and dad were two of the people that she had stolen DNA from. And at this point in time, they were together, but the dad ended up leaving the mom to go be with his DNA match. So Timothy was resentful because he was like, you split up my parents, you ruined my mom's life, I hate you, and I want to make you pay for that. He is like, not only am I going to be outing you for all of the illegal shit that you did back in the day, but I also went into the computer system, because he's like a computer nerd, and hacked it so that you would match with me so that I could ruin your life. The other thing that I did when I hacked your system is that I screwed up your entire DNA matching system. So you're out here matching people for the last 18 months who have absolutely nothing to do with each other. They're totally random, mismatched. Once the story gets out that your DNA match did all this stuff and that this is a huge scandal, somehow, some way, your life is going to be ruined. And then she ends up murdering him out of like anger. He was a little bit smarter than her, and I guess that was his last dying wish, because this entire time he's been live streaming this interaction. So him getting murdered by her was live streamed for everybody to see, and their entire conversation was live streamed. So yeah, this entire company gets shut down and Ellie goes to jail, and they were like, are you going to offer a rematch for all the people who were mismatched with their significant other, or are we going to give some kind of compensation so that the people who are questioning whether or not they were matched with the right person can retake the test and see? And she said, no, we're just going to let fate decide what it's going to decide. At this point, I'm done. I am done with this whole situation. I don't want anything to do with it anymore. So yeah, this book was absolutely insane. Even though there are a couple of plot holes, there are a couple of things here and there, like Amy's entire character didn't like her. A couple of questions that didn't quite add up. The amount of fun that I had reading this book was top tier. Loved it. I am giving it 5 stars. I think this actually might be my favorite John Mars that I've read. And now that I know that there's a second one, The Family Experiment, I'm even more inclined to pick that one up. So yeah, that was all of the hot tea on the one by John Mars. You already know all of my thoughts now because I was completely transparent throughout this entire video. But if there's anything that you want to say, please comment down below. If you've watched this video, you already know spoilers, obviously, so the comments will not be spoiler free if you do want to comment and talk about this book with me. That is all for me today. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want more videos like this from me. And also, I might do more like deep dive videos as I did this one in the future on different books. I don't really know. This was the entire inspiration behind me doing this video, so we'll see what happens. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye!